In this video, you will learn everything you need to know about jungling in Smite 2. There have been a ton of changes to the jungle in this game, and a lot of people coming from Smite 1 or just new to the game might want to have a better idea of what's going on, so I decided to make this guide for you. This video will go over new camps and objectives, new jungle buffs and mechanics, what to play, how to build, and basic pathing. The changes I'm going to cover are especially important for junglers, but will be useful for other roles as well. So with that, let's get right into it. Firstly, let's have a look at the new map. You will still see the 4 traditional Smite buffs, although they've moved around a bit. All buff camps respawn after 3 minutes. Behind those, you have 4 bat camps, which now drop a stacking shield buff and respawn every 90 seconds. There is also a large variety of neutral camps for both teams to contest. In mid, there are 2 neutral camps. On the Gold Fury side, these are oracles, which when slain, will grant your team vision of the Gold Fury for 1 minute. On FG side, the mid camp is actually a buff now. The buff order is decided randomly at the start of the game, and will be shuffled again after all 4 buffs have been cleared. This rotating buff camp spawns every 4 minutes. The mid lane also has a gold cache, which you can interact with to grant your whole team 30 gold. Each side lane also has 2 neutral objectives. Both duo and solo have a new Cyclops camp that provides more gold than a normal camp, but doesn't give XP. Duo lane also has a rotating buff camp that follows the same rules as the one in mid, and solo laners get to fight over the Warhorn, which buffs your team's next wave when captured. There is a new objective you should know about as well, the Queen Naga. She is kinda like a mini-boss in the jungle, and you'll probably want some help to take her down. When slain, she drops a new buff called Naga Assault. If you pick up this buff, the next time you attack a jungle boss or enemy structure, you will summon 2 Naga soldiers to assist you. These little lizards are pretty potent, and you're gonna want to be the team that gets them. The Naga Queen spawns 7 minutes into the game at one of 4 random locations, 2 on the Order side and 2 on the Chaos side. Once she is spawned, she will sit at this location for 45 seconds, after which she marches to the opposing team's jungle, where she will remain for another 45 seconds before repeating this patrol. You are able to leash the Naga Queen a small distance away from where she was, indicated by a second bar underneath her health. One thing you should note is that after she spawned on one team's side, her next spawn will always be on the opposing team's side. Speaking of bosses, Gold Fury now grants permanent team-wide effects, and the buff changes each time your team defeats her. The first Gold Fury grants you additional move speed when leaving your fountain. The second kill gives you an aura that increases the strength of nearby minions. And if you take down a third one, your team gets a large damage bonus to structures as well as additional protections when you are near one. After either team has defeated 3 Gold Furies, the next spawn will be the Ancient Fury. If you kill the Ancient Fury, the enemy team's structures will be disabled for 2 minutes, meaning you can walk right into their towers or phoenixes and they cannot fire at you. This is a massively important objective and will definitely help you end the game. Fire Giant is pretty much the same as before. His mechanics are a bit different, but he still grants your team a large buff to regen and damage when you defeat him. Now that we've gone over the new map, let's talk about buff camps. Jungle buffs in Smite 2 work differently in several key ways. Each team still gets 4 jungle buffs, blue, red, yellow, and purple, and these buffs generally still go to the same roles as Smite 1. However, their effects have changed. Not only have they changed, but they get stronger as the game goes on, which I'll explain soon. For now, let's examine the buffs. Blue buff grants mana regeneration and reduces your cooldowns when you take damage. Red buff gives your attacks a poison that deals a percentage of the enemy's HP and heals you for a little. The yellow buff grants you movement speed and restores health and mana after slaying a jungle monster. This is an important change to note for junglers because it used to be your starter item that gave you sustain. Now, that effect is tied to your speed buff, so be sure to defend yours and steal the enemies whenever you can. And lastly, we have purple buff, which gives a stacking damage buff as you continuously hit attacks, as well as adding an additional burst to your first attack. Alright, now let's talk about the new buff scaling system. As mentioned, in Smite 2 your buffs get stronger over the course of the game. This is because of a new system they implemented called Infamy. Each team now gains Infamy with every jungle camp they defeat. Gaining Infamy levels up jungle camps on your side of the map, yielding stronger buffs when killing them. Killing camps on your opponent's side also denies the enemy team of that Infamy. This makes it absolutely essential that you are defending your own buffs and looking to take the enemies when possible. Buffs start at base power, or level 0. As your team gains Infamy, these buffs will grow in power, culminating at level 3. You'll want to reach level 3 buffs as fast as possible, as they have some really powerful effects. There are a few other changes that are really important to mention. 1. You can no longer leash or drag buff monsters away from their buff camp. You will now have to stay inside the buff's radius or else it will de-aggro and begin healing. 2. You can now pick up multiple types of jungle buffs and they will all stack on your god. And 3. This one is super critical. There is no more Invader's Curse at level 1. If you don't know already, in Smite 1 there is a debuff in place that harshly punishes any god that walks into the enemy jungle at the beginning of a match. This prevents people from trying to steal your first rotation of jungle buffs. For better or worse, that debuff is gone in Smite 2, which can make the early game much more volatile. So make sure that you are aware of possible invades at level 1, and maybe purchase an early ward. If you've enjoyed this video so far, please leave a like. Thanks! Next, let's discuss who you should be playing in the jungle. There aren't a ton of options as the game is still new and has only a fraction of the gods we're used to. Here are the gods that Hi-Rez lists as junglers for Smite 2. If you want my advice, I recommend you stick to these 4 traditional assassins. These gods all have good mobility and single target damage, which will help you fulfill your role as the jungler. There are definitely other gods that can jungle, but these are going to be your best options, especially if you're new. Alright, so what should you be building in the jungle? The item system has changed in Smite 2, and you might be wondering what to build. For your first couple games, I highly recommend selecting one of the auto builds that fits the playstyle you're going for. But if none of these suit your needs, here are 2 powerful damage builds that you could try instead. The first one will work on any jungler and is a traditional, full damage cooldown build. This is very similar to what assassins are currently running in Smite 1. The second build goes all in on lifesteal and crit. If you didn't know, lifesteal applies to all attacks in Smite 2, including abilities. This build can be really fun on Thanatos or Fenrir, but I wouldn't recommend running it on the other junglers. You could, there's just better options. These are purely offensive, glass cannon strength builds. I'm not going to dive deep into itemization in this video, but if you have any specific questions or want me to make a larger video on the subject, please let me know in the comments. Now let's talk about pathing. Pathing in Smite 2 is a bit more dynamic because of the new jungle layout. A good starting path is to begin at your speed buff, which is now on the duo side of the map. After that, you'll move to the back harpies, and once you've cleared all of that, you will hit level 2. From here, you have a couple of options. You could look to duo and contest that camp, or run straight to mid to contest the oracles and gold cache. If their players are pushed up and unaware, either of these options could lead to a free kill. But the standard pathing that I'd recommend is you walk to the other side of the jungle and clear the mid camp, before doing reds and smalls on that side. Once you are level 3, look for a fight wherever the enemy is pushed up or low HP. After that, just continue clearing camps and picking up kills when you can. It's pretty simple. Remember that Smite 2 is currently in alpha, so a lot of the information in this video is subject to change as people figure out the meta and the devs continue to balance the game. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment letting me know what guide you want to see next.